In recent years, several studios have come up with new ideas inspired by the dark and challenging Metroidvania style of Hollow Knight. And some of these games have tried to get very close to the magic of Hollow Knight, each with its own personality. Today, we're going to take a look at 10 new games that every Hollow Knight fan needs to know about. Some are more focused on combat, others on atmosphere and exploration, but all of them have something that will hook you from beginning to end. So get your controller ready and let's get to the list. I'm Matthew and the video is about to start. Crowsworn is basically that Metroidvania that seems to have been custom made for those who finished Hollow Knight, felt orphaned, and started scouring the internet for what is the next big dark 2D addiction that will ruin my social life. The difference is that here, the vibe isn't just a melancholic bug in a ruined kingdom. It's almost as if they threw Hollow Knight, Bloodborne, and Devil May Cry into a cauldron and decided, okay, let's make you feel like a monster of mobility and style all the time. Right off the bat, Crowsworn throws you into Firendal, a kingdom that was once vibrant and is now cursed, infested with deformed creatures and practically devoid of human presence, with that distinct mood of something very wrong happened here, and you arrived too late. You wake up inside a coffin, without memory, wearing a plague doctor mask with a crow-like look, and this sets the tone perfectly. It's not just about exploring a map, it's about discovering what this curse is, where it came from, and what your real connection to all of this is. If you enjoy lore scattered throughout the scenery, decaying villages like Angsthel with NPCs burdened by guilt and fanaticism, and that constant feeling of penance, this world has exactly that heavy energy that Hollow Knight had, only leaning more towards a gothic 2D Bloodborne. In terms of gameplay, if you liked the movement precision of Hollow Knight, the proposal here is to lean even further into the aggressive and stylish side. You run, jump, dash, but the game was built for you to chain all of this with combat, almost as if every room were a mini stage for you to show off how much you dominate the system. The exploration follows the classic Metroidvania scheme, a gigantic interconnected map, several areas locked behind new abilities, that pleasure of returning to an old place and finally opening a shortcut or finding an optional boss just because you now master the kit better. Combat is the point where Crowsworn tries to hook you for good. You have a scythe as your main melee weapon, pistols for ranged attacks, and also Corvian magic, which are special powers fueled by a resource called Malice. The cool detail is that Malice only recharges when you go on the offensive with the scythe, so the game encourages you all the time to play aggressively, alternating strikes, shots, and spells at a very fast pace, heavily inspired by Devil May Cry and Bloodborne. The scythe can be thrown, ricochet off enemies, allow for pogo bounces and creative setups, so if you're the type who likes to break the system and find stylish routes and kills, this combat screams your name. If your favorite memory of Hollow Knight involves those boss fights that make you sweat, Crowsworn makes it very clear that it's going down that path without mercy. There are over 30 planned bosses and more than 120 enemy types scattered across the map, plus a boss rush mode for those who like to suffer in sequence. The common enemies aren't just training dummies. There is a focus on varied patterns, more dynamic AI, and encounters that mix platforming and combat well. It's that type of game where if you like memorizing patterns and turning impossible bosses into a choreographed dance, every victory will feel extremely earned. To wrap up, there's the practical part that matters. Crowsworn is an indie title from Mongoose Rodeo, funded via Kickstarter, and has been in development for years precisely because the small team is aiming high in world scope, boss quantity, and combat polish. The game is planned for release on PC, Windows, macOS, Linux, and also on modern consoles, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, with a confirmed presence in the Xbox ecosystem and highlighted recently for Game Pass. So, if Hollow Knight left you with a hole in your chest that Silksong hasn't filled yet, Crowsworn is that Metroidvania worth putting on your radar now and following very closely, because everything indicates it's the next big dark addiction of this genre. Mio, Memories in Orbit, is that sci-fi Metroidvania that will grab anyone who loved Hollow Knight by the collar and say, forget the dark underground for a second. Now, imagine a robot waking up on a giant spaceship taken over by rogue machines and wild vegetation, with visuals that look like a living oil painting. It's not just another clone. Here, the atmosphere is one of cosmic mystery, with Mio, an agile android who awakens without memories in the vessel, a technological ark adrift orbiting a mysterious planet, needing to revive the place's memories to avoid a total blackout. If Hollow Knight hooked you with the sensation of solitary discovery in a hostile world, this swaps insects for rebellious robots and biomes full of organic life mixed with rusted metal, creating a contrast that makes me obsessed just thinking about the layers of lore. The world of Mio is an interconnected labyrinth of colorful and decaying ecosystems within the ship, with claustrophobic corridors turning into hydroponic forests and industrial rooms full of organic traps. It's as if the game took the non-linear exploration of Hollow Knight and threw it into a blender with elements of 2D Dead Space. You interact with the environment to unlock secrets, encounter enigmatic NPCs who drop clues about the collapse of the Pearls, the caretaker AIs that stopped working, and every corner screams story without clogging you with text. For me, as someone who loves when the scenery tells the narrative, this promises to be one of those games where you stop to absorb the melancholic beauty of an abandoned mechanical garden, feeling the weight of robotic loneliness. In gameplay, mobility is what won me over immediately. Mio uses tentacles like spider legs to scale walls and ceilings, but with limited stamina that forces you to manage restorative flowers on the map, mixing precise platforming with planning a la Hollow Knight. You gain game-changer abilities like glide to plane, hook to evade, orbs as projectiles, and even distraction clones, all to navigate a huge map full of secret passages and rewarding backtracking. It is fluid and rhythmic, with that flow of movement that makes you feel like a precision machine, but with touches of risk that elevate the tension. I can already imagine hours grinding to master wall-to-wall combos. The combat brings over 30 varied enemies and 15 guardian bosses, where you adapt powers for each fight, shoot orbs, create decoys, or use hooks to flank, all with a system of nacre, crystals that serve for healing, upgrades, and progression, but which you lose upon death unless you crystallize them at machines. This risk-reward mechanic reminds me of the dread of dying in Hollow Knight, but here it is more strategic, forcing choices like, do I push for the boss with my current nacre, or go back to save what I have? The demos show brutal and satisfying combat, with dynamic AI that doesn't forgive mistakes, perfect for those who enjoy sweating to master patterns and turn enemies into a deadly dance. Customization is another hit. Collect components from modifiers that boost health, enemy HP vision, or extra slots, and use modules with merchants for permanent upgrades, molding MIO to your style, aggressive, evasive, or hybrid. It's as if the game gives you tools to break it your way, just like the charm of builds in Hollow Knight, but with a cyberpunk vibe that adds insane replay value. I feel this will get me addicted to experimentation, especially with those bosses that demand total adaptation. For those counting the days, MIO comes out on January 20th, 2026 for PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, with a demo already available to test the hype, from Deux Dixiem, a French indie studio published by Focus Entertainment. If Hollow Knight left you missing a Metroidvania that mixes deep exploration, punitive combat, and a narrative that pokes at the soul, hear about artificial consciousness and identity, MIO is what you need to wishlist now and dive into when it launches. This is the type of game that will make me ignore the real world for weeks. Fallen Tier: The Ascension is that Metroidvania that takes everything you loved in Hollow Knight, the vast and interconnected map, the secrets hidden in every shadowy corner, and injects a heavy dose of JRPG narrative with choices that actually change the world around you, like whether you're going to save a corrupt god or let them rot. If Hollow Knight left you missing a solitary hero exploring melancholic ruins, here you are, Hira, a mysterious boy raised in the shadows of an ancient cave, and the game makes you feel that every decision carries the weight of an entire crumbling world. It's as if the Winter Crew team looked at Hallownest and said, let's add friends, elemental skill trees, and a berserker transformation that makes you feel invincible. The world of Rawa is a spectacle of 26 interactive biomes, from lilac swamps to ruins of gods, all hand-drawn with fluid animations that change based on your actions. Imagine a forest that blooms or dies depending on who you saved. You start in Hillcrest, a decaying village post-Divine War, and soon set off to hunt apex monsters, unravel your dark past, and deal with a curse that is killing the planet. For those who enjoy deep lore like in Hollow Knight, here there are 22 fated bonds, allies with their own stories, branching quests, and unique abilities that help you in combat or exploration, like a chef who burns weak enemies with fire, or a map-revealing tower. Gameplay-wise, it is pure Metroidvania, with precise platforming a la Ori, but the focus is on fast and customizable combat that makes you switch between a melee staff, playable up close or at a range, with a cool recall, elements like fire, water, air, and earth, and timed counters that break boss postures. Dash, wall jump, barrier breakers for shortcuts, everything encourages rewarding backtracking, but with Ascension skill trees and imbuements that let you mold the build to your style, whether aggressive or tactical. If you spent hours in Hollow Knight optimizing nail and charms, here the fated bonds add layers of synergy, such as musical combos that revive you in the middle of a fight. Combat shines with over 150 unique enemies, each asking for different tactics. Mobile ones that require a chase with mobility, tanky ones that break with heavy powers, or aerial ones that only fall with special ranged attacks. Bosses have an endure meter for stuns, backstep counters for criticals, and no annoying persistent hitboxes. It's fluid, punitive but fair, with a rage form leaving you regenerative and overpowered for those moments of fury. Monster hunts and minigames give fated points to level up trees, and the demo already shows a boss rush that reminded me how much I love turning impossible patterns into personal choreographies. Bosses and encounters are the beating heart. Imagine a mage with teleportation and duplicates in your first narrative death, or elemental shroom lords that force weakness switching. The game has puzzles, trials for new abilities, and a non-linear progression where fated bonds open secret paths, all in an Elden Ring-sized 2D map that promises hours of just one more area. It is addictive for those who, like me, love turning exploration into obsession, with that pleasure of finding an optional biome just because you now master the complete kit.
We've got your back, Hira.
Emberbane is the pixel art Metroidvania that will grab you by the collar if Hollow Knight left you addicted to destroyed worlds and solitary heroes fighting against capricious gods, but with an elemental twist inspired by Avatar that transforms every combo into a dance of fire, water, earth, and air. You are Ophelia, an orphan cursed with powers she barely understands, waking up in a kingdom that was a throne of prosperity and is now ashes and graves, guided by a mysterious voice to restore elemental balance. For me, having devoured Hallownest pixel by pixel, this screams spiritual successor, with its vibe of betrayal, eternal promise, and a warrior rebelling against chains, all in an interconnected map that rewards every backtrack with epic revelations. The world here is a spectacle of ruins balanced by the 4 elements, with biomes that visually change as you master the powers. Imagine flaming caves opening to your fire, or frozen rivers cracking with heavy earth, all hand-pixelated with smooth animations that capture that Hollow Knight melancholy. The lore unfolds over narrative decades, with planets and elements aligning for the climax, and you unraveling ancient betrayals while slaying malevolent gods. If you love the secrets scattered in Hollow Knight, Emberbane delivers this with personal touches like burnt diaries and echoes of lost allies, making me feel that Ophelia is an extension of my own frustrated journey. Gameplay is pure, refined Metroidvania, precise platforming with dashes, wall jumps, and air dashes that require impeccable timing, just like the nail in Hollow Knight. But the heart is the combo-driven combat, where you weave elements into hybrid attacks: fire for area damage, water for mobility, earth to tank, air to fly and ricochet. Each element has unique abilities that mix, encouraging experimentation. A fireball that explodes into water, or an aerial earthquake, all fluid to chain kills in crowded rooms. I love how this turns exploration into obsession, with new abilities opening routes that make you return laughing at how dumb it was not to see that before. Combat shines in the 2D Souls-like intensity. Enemies with dynamic patterns demand fast elemental switches, and god bosses are posture break marathons where one wrong combo sends you to respawn. But hitting the weave makes you feel like a master. No boring grinding, just a pure elemental skill tree that levels up with collected souls, and a balance system that punishes overuse of one element but rewards total mastery. For those who sweated on the Radiance, here the god slays have phases that change the entire biome, like a fire god setting the arena ablaze until you counterattack with water. Addictive and personally cathartic. Exploration and bosses are the addiction. A vast map with optional secrets, elemental trials for upgrades, and encounters that mix platforming with weaving puzzles, all non-linear for you to choose the path of power. There are dozens of unique enemies per element, each forcing adaptation, and an implicit boss rush in optimized runs that reminds me how much I love Metroidvanias that become one more fight. It is that perfect loop where dying teaches and mastering elevates you to an elemental legend. Emberbane comes from Hamlet Games, demo already on Steam to test the hype, launching in January 2026 first on PC, with consoles like PS5, Switch, and Xbox in the post-launch plan.
When I got exiled from my village, a voice echoing.
Mariachi Legends is that brutal pixel art Metroidvania that will hook you if Hollow Knight addicted you to dark exploration and precise combat, but with an explosive Mexican seasoning of folklore, dark mariachi, and a revenge that smells of tequila and gunpowder. You are Pablo Cruz, a tough detective from Santa Mascota who makes a pact with Lady Death to recover an amulet that messes with the Day of the Dead, gaining the power of La Sombra, a supernatural mariachi suit that transforms you into an acrobatic demon against the Mariachi Legends gang. For me, who sweated in Hallow Nest hunting secrets, this is Hollow Knight with a Latin soul. Less insect melancholy, more vibrant cultural fury, where every pixel screams Mexican pride and old-school violence. The world of Santa Mascota is a day-night delirium. By day, a colorful village with spicy cuisine and NPCs full of stories. By night, a hell of gangs and the undead, with a time cycle that changes entire areas and releases hidden paths. You descend into the Mexican underworld packed with folklore, dancing skeletons, Lady Death as a treacherous ally, exploring hand-pixelated branching levels that reward curiosity with recipes that buff powers, and puzzles mixing platforming with macabre rituals. If Hollow Knight marked you with its ruined lore, here it is, living folklore. Learn mysteries from the beyond with sharp dialogue and a mariachi-haunted soundtrack that sticks in your head. Gameplay is heavy combat Metroidvania, fluid acrobatic platforming with wall jumps and dashes requiring reflexes, but the focus is on visceral beat-em-up, where you chain insane combos with La Sombra, bloody finishers, and tarot cards that twist runs with crazy modifiers. Exploration opens new gear, crafting materials, and alternative day-night areas, all in an interconnected map that makes you return laughing at how blind you were before. I love how this takes the precision of Hollow Knight and injects arcade rage. Die, learn, dominate. No grinding, just pure satisfaction of breaking waves of enemies. Combat is the pulsing and brutal heart, fast, responsive, with precise timing for dodges, grabs, and aerial attacks that disembowel zombie mariachi gangs, all customizable via a flexible RPG system of upgrades and cooking that leaves you overpowered or experimental. Enemies come in varied hordes, asking for creative combos, and bosses are folkloric epics with patterns that become a deadly dance. For those who memorized movesets in Hollow Knight, here is catharsis. La Sombra, thirsty for blood, makes you feel invincible, with finishers that leave me shouting, "Orale!" every time. Bosses and challenges are pure addiction. Epic encounters against Mexican legends that test total mastery, mixing intense platforming with tarot puzzles and secret routes where backtracking rewards with deep lore and power spikes. The day-night cycle adds insane replay value, with areas that only open at the right time, and a loop of death as a stepping stone that turns fails into personal progression. If you loved Hollow Knight and that precise exploration in dark worlds full of mysteries and sharp combat, you need to know Saint Slayer: Spear of Sacrilege right now. This game is a bloody homage to original Nintendo classics like Castlevania, with immersive gothic pixel art and an atmosphere that makes me feel like I'm living in the Holy Roman Empire in 1698, hunting demons alongside Rudiger, the ex-soldier turned farmer, and later the greatest slayer of corrupt saints. With 21 handcrafted stages full of grotesque enemies and traps that require perfect timing on the spear, it is like Hollow Knight, but with more pixelated gore and brutal combos that leave me addicted to landing lethal sequences. Local co-op for 2 players with friendly fire is genius. I can already imagine the laughter and the scolding playing with a friend, where one mistake can end it all, adding that chaotic tension that makes every run unique. The story got me good. Rudiger wields the Spear of Sacrilege against Father Pacer, a mad priest stealing sacred relics and summoning demonic hordes. It's personal for me because I love narratives where the common hero becomes a legend, protecting the people from fanatics. It reminds me of the emotional weight of choices in Hollow Knight, but here with a dark historical touch that gives an air of epic revenge. The 7 monstrous bosses are what excite me the most. Each one feels like a test of patience and strategy, with patterns requiring unlockable upgrades and animal familiars you tame to help in combat. I love how this encourages multiple playthroughs, with passwords, achievements, and moral choices. Help or betray NPCs. This creates infinite replays, just like the addiction of mapping the entire Hallownest. The 8-bit chiptune soundtrack is killer, the kind of sound that sticks in your head and raises adrenaline in every risky jump or precise dash. Visually, the gore and gothic atmosphere transport me to the old days of the NES, but with modern polish that respects the roots. For those who enjoy beat-em-ups and Metroidvanias, it is as if Castlevania had an illegitimate child with Hollow Knight. Run to the demo on Steam now, because Saint Slayer comes out in early 2026 for PC, consoles, and Switch, and it's going to be one of those I return to 1,000 times to master. If Hollow Knight made you dream of interconnected worlds and unforgettable bosses, this one delivers the same retro thrill with a brutal twist that conquered me instantly. If you are looking for Metroidvanias that mix exploration with a dash of boldness and personality, you need to check out Goblin Vyke, the Thief Tycoon. In this game, you live the double life of Vyke, a goblin thief who invades dungeons at night to steal treasures and sells everything in the market by day, bargaining with customers to maximize profits. It is a refreshing mix of stealth, combat, and management that hooked me from the first few minutes. The nights are tense, full of careful thefts, where every step needs to be calculated to avoid enemies and deadly traps. It's not just jumping and attacking, it's thinking like a true thief. Distractions with coins, silent traps, and special abilities that allow you to dominate the environment. During the day, you become a smart merchant, negotiating stolen items and improving your reputation, all while expanding your business and assembling a team of employees. It gives that taste of evolution that every Metroidvania should have. The game has pixelated visuals with a dark medieval vibe, where every dungeon hides secrets, unique bosses, and rare items that make the difference when facing challenges. The dynamic of stealing and selling is so engaging that it makes me feel like I'm living the dream of any ambitious goblin, rising from zero to dominate the underworld black market, all with a dose of malice and cleverness that recalls the charm of great Hollow Knight characters. Combat is direct, but requires strategy and timing. Instead of facing everything head-on, you need to use stealth, stop enemies, and take advantage of the environment. There are also upgrades and masks that give special abilities, like marking enemies or attacking sneakily, creating combinations that force you to rethink every invasion. It is one of those games that holds you until the last item is stolen. And the best part? All this with a tone of humor that only good Metroidvanias know how to deliver. The narrative revolves around Vyke trying to save the family business, and this brings a subtle emotional weight that grows as you progress. It is like exploring the caves of Hallownest, but with a more intimate purpose, rebuilding what was lost and proving that a small goblin can be the greatest thief of all. Each new area is a new opportunity for growth, discovery, and profit. Goblin Vyke is already available as a demo on Steam and promises a full release soon, with updates and more content coming. If Hollow Knight won you over with exploration and depth, this one will hook you with a different formula, full of strategy, humor, and that touch of ambitious thief that is hard to resist. It's worth checking out before the hype takes over. If you want to feel that same pressure in every movement as in Hollow Knight, you need to know Tearscape now. This game is a top-down, Souls-like Metroidvania with pixel art visuals inspired by the Game Boy Color, where you live as a hunter, exploring an interconnected, gothic world filled with dark dungeons and grotesque monsters that test your precision in every fight. It's as if Bloodborne and Zelda had a retro and heavy child, and I am completely hypnotized by this formula. Combat is deliberate and brutal, requiring you to calculate every strike, every dodge, and every perfect block, because stamina is your most valuable currency. You can't just go attacking without thinking. Every mistake is punished instantly, and healing flasks are rare. So you soon learn to dance with the enemies and respect their patterns. When you finally understand the rhythm and master this deadly dance, you feel that unique, Souls-like pulse that makes it all worth it. It is addictive and satisfying in a way only the best games achieve. Hidden dungeons are pure, non-linear exploration, whispering buried secrets that pull you down with dim lights and forgotten screams. Each one holds relics, new abilities, and truths too heavy to hold, making you realize that this world wasn't built for you to save, but to understand why it fell. This fragmented and silent narrative tone reminds me so much of Hollow Knight, where every NPC and every area has something to say, but only if you stop to listen. The upgrade system and expansive arsenal force you to rethink your strategies constantly. You find new weapons, learn devastating magic, and face monumental bosses requiring patience and surgical timing. Progression isn't linear. You can explore alternative paths and unlock secret areas that reward curiosity, just like the feeling of discovering a hidden shortcut in Hallownest that changes everything. The NPCs you meet, wanderers, scholars, fools, speak little, but every word weighs. One offers help, another seeks forgiveness, and some just watch, with motives buried like graves in the dialogue. It is that distilled, Souls-like narrative, silent and frighteningly human, where what isn't said speaks louder than any text. I love when games do this. I feel part of something bigger and more mysterious. Tearscape has a demo available on Steam, and a full launch set for February 2nd, 2026. If Hollow Knight won you over with an interconnected world, precise combat, and heavy atmosphere, this one will drag you in with its retro gothic aesthetic and calculated punishment. Don't miss it, because this is one of those indies that deserve to stand alongside the giants. Download the demo and feel this pressure on your skin. In Take Bomb the Suit Takeoff, you are an adventurer who doesn't jump on their own. You use bomb explosions to fly high, dash backwards, and even attack enemies with brutal impact. It is a genius mechanic that transforms the interconnected world into an explosive playground, leaving me addicted to planning every bomb as if it were a perfect nail strike in Hallownest. The bomb jump is everything here. Plant, detonate, and fly off with insane precision, exploring labyrinthine caves and platforms that require surgical timing so you don't blow yourself up. I love how this creates a unique rhythm, mixing Metroidvania with explosive puzzles. Upgrades unlock more simultaneous bombs, aerial dashes, and area attacks, making every new area feel like a reinvented movement boss. The story starts with you putting on talking armor that gives the power of bombs, but its weight limits everything, forcing tough choices in a hostile world full of traps and creatures that punish mistakes. It is personal for me because I feel that tension of Hollow Knight, where the fragile hero grows by mastering simple tools into something lethal, unraveling secrets while blasting the path forward. The stages are pure Metroidvania, non-linear, with backtracking to access high or secret areas only after upgrades, and enemies requiring creative bombs to be defeated. Bosses look like explosive dances, where positioning the right bomb becomes art. It reminds me of the tense duels against Hornet, but with fire and smoke everywhere. Retro pixel art visuals with fluid animations and explosion sounds that stick in your head, all optimized for controllers and Steam Deck. The atmosphere is chaotic and addictive, with subtle humor in the chatty armor, adding personality without weighing down the pure action. If you like the constant switch between precise exploration and puzzles that test your patience, you need to know Halchemist by Team Flask right now. This puzzle action Metroidvania is genius, where you alternate between two inseparable characters, Hando and Mercury, who share a soul, to solve alchemical enigmas and synchronized combat in an interconnected world full of dark mysteries. Hando is the melee brute, crushing enemies with brute force and opening blocked paths, while Mercury is the agile alchemist, manipulating elements, creating volatile potions, and solving chemical puzzles requiring perfect timing. Switching between them is mandatory to progress. A potion from Mercury can freeze an enemy for Hando to finish off, or a strike from him activates a reaction releasing a new path. It is like the knight's nail and spells, but with explosive chemistry that makes me plan every switch like a lethal choreography. The world is a non-linear labyrinth of abandoned labs, mystical forges, and alchemical ruins, where backtracking with new chemical reactions reveals hidden secrets and secret areas. Progression is pure Metroidvania. Master shared soul combos for upgrades that unite the two in devastating attacks, creating addictive sequences that punish errors but reward mastery. Bosses are epic synergy duels, forcing fast switches between Hando's tankiness and Mercury's elemental manipulation to exploit unique chemical weaknesses. Every victory unlocks fragmented lore about their linked soul, giving emotional weight that reminds me of the silent echoes of Hollow Knight. I love this personal touch of broken heroes fighting as one. Vibrant pixel art visuals with potion effects exploding in vivid colors, sounds of bubbling reactions, and an atmospheric soundtrack that speeds up intense puzzles. The atmosphere mixes alchemical humor with Souls-like tension, perfect for long sessions where you shout, "Now!" imagining the perfect switch. Halchemist is in development with a demo on itch.io or Steam. Keep an eye out for the launch in 2026. If Hollow Knight won you over with fluid abilities and living worlds, this one elevates it with chemical duality that becomes an instant addiction. Give it a try and tell me if you like the game.